radio stations in Michigan and through mibigshow.com. Dangerous radio, and we try to leave out the boring parts. One of the exchanges yesterday, I'm going to have more audio if you'll stick around this morning, of the CNN Donald Trump Caitlin Collins town hall meeting, was when Caitlin Collins, she kept trying to get Donald Trump to commit to positions that people could use later on. She asked about the Ukraine war, and she asked about whether Vladimir Putin should be considered a war criminal. Here was the exchange.
Do you believe that he is a war criminal?
What?
Do you believe that Putin is a war criminal? He's responsible for the deaths of thousands of Ukrainian men and women.
I think it's something that should not be discussed now. It should be discussed later, because right now we have to get a war. If you say he's a war criminal, it's going to be a lot tougher to make a deal to get this thing stopped. Because if he's going to be a war criminal where people are going to go and grab him and execute him, he's going to fight a lot harder than he's fighting, under the other circumstance. That's something to be discussed at a later date. Right now, we want to get that war settled. And I'm not talking about the money either. I'm talking about all the lives that are the number of people being killed in that war is far greater than you're hearing. When they blow up a city and those buildings come pouring down and then they say 2 people were injured, no, hundreds and thousands of people are being killed, and we have to get that war settled.
We have more with former President Trump.
The line, isn't it important to call it what it is? Seems a little naive to me. I don't know. John Sellek is a better person to ask, the founder and CEO of the Michigan political consulting firm Harbor Strategic Public Affairs, and on our radio stage right now. Welcome back to the airwaves.
Hey, thanks for having me back. It was kind of fitting the last segment before we came on was that's entertainment, because that's what last night was too.
It was, and was that not probably the most sensible thing that Donald Trump said in the entire 70 minutes?
I'm not sure my list was filled with the sensible things, but one thing.
No, that's what I mean. To me, it stood out because, isn't it naive on the part of Caitlin Collins to say, is he a war criminal? And this kind of diplomacy at that level is not played out in labels. And also the point where she was asking about, who would win the war? Who do you think should win the war? All of that seems to be very naive and simplistic to me. Not you?
Well, one thing he does that's appealing to some people is he says, look, I'm not going to talk about what we aspire to or what our ideals are for other people. Let's just call it what it is. That there's bad people in the world, and that doesn't mean they're stupid or crazy. He said, many times that Putin was smart. How could he have gotten as far as he did with being stupid? Let's be real. We're just up against people with different ambitions than we have. Sometimes that whole realism argument he makes, at least on the national stage or the international stage, works. He tried to use that realism argument to defend off the attacks on the recent sexual assault trial he went through, and he said, hey, look, it's just real powerful and rich people and stars get better treatment and more access to things that regular people don't. So he's using that same line of logic in both instances.
Yeah, and she wanted him to decry that too, and he kept saying, well, I know what you want me to say, but the reality is something different. And, it's a strange hill for him to die on, as people might say, but he won't BS people in that regard. Maybe there are other things he'll BS them about, and there was plenty of circular talk yesterday too. But, again, naive to say that notable people don't get the edge in all sorts of ways, including restaurant tables. And sure, maybe Caitlin Collins has never been to a Hollywood party, but it's a different world.
Right, and in that way, where he's different than DeSantis or almost anyone else as a politician, is that he is a celebrity, and he knows that he's lived the life, and that he definitely lays it out there for other people to say, man, that is cool. I wish I had that kind of celebrity. I wish I had that kind of access. I wish, the way he spells it out, that women fell over me. When the truth that's being laid out is far the opposite, but nonetheless, he does lead with that star celebrity status in a way we've never seen in U.S. politics. We've just never had that before.
He's better suited to be a television political commentator than a leader, though, isn't he?
Well, for sure. And I thought what was interesting is, both he and CNN used each other yesterday.
Yeah.
He got to have an hour of primetime coverage, hour and a half. And they used him to try to prove that they are somehow different than they used to be, that they're not MSNBC like it, that they're somehow just a hard news organization.
But that was an
and they
epic
gave
fail.
him an hour in front of a super friendly crowd. It was practically a rally without the rally.
Did you watch Jake Tapper emoting and crying the second it was over, though?
Yes, I watched that, and I watched this morning, Morning Joe, and they did kind of basically the same thing. And at first you're thinking, what are you doing? This isn't anything new. This is Donald Trump. He came back out, he got an hour on TV, and he was the Donald Trump of 2016 and 2020. Nothing new here at all. He doubled down on his base that he's doing. And I start to wonder if there's a method behind their madness. And then we saw it in the Biden announcement video. We can't get complacent, which is the argument of last time this was all about Trump and his chaos. So just pick me and things will be calm. But now things are calm, and we're looking more squarely at Biden, and he doesn't want it just to be a referendum on him. He doesn't want his own people to do what they did to Hillary Clinton and not even show up to vote or drift somewhere else because they're frustrated with Biden. So I think that's a pretty interesting angle to all of this, too.
You know, John Sellek, you're right, and you're very smart, because there were a number of times when I heard different commentators say, he could be elected again. There's a definite path that he could be, as if they're trying to scare people. Exactly.
Right.
Wow.
They're doing the same thing that Biden's doing. They're shocked. They see him up there and they see the crowd cheering. They're like, whoa. They can't actually be shocked of what they saw. This is what he's been.
John Sellek, Harbor Strategic Public Affairs with Michael Patrick Shields. Thank you for that insight. God, I hadn't thought of that till he said it. You can easily spot the messaging if you look closely enough.